last week we did our move, and I had this commitment. This is CJ, a dear friend of mine, who he made an invitation a long time ago to finally share his spot with me where he finds crystals. And so like I've been friends with this guy forever, and I was like, I need to go here. Like I need to go experience this. And it so happened that we got the place that we wanted to move to also. And that the only time we'd be able to move is going to be that weekend. So I created the possibility of both. That I would get my move all settled in. I'd do all this stuff beforehand so that I could spend all day Saturday. But I did have this thought, like I'm going to be moving. I'm going to be lifting boxes. I'm going to be exhausted. And then I'm going to go do a 9-hour hike, waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning to get up there so that we can be up on the mountain before it gets too hot. And so I had all these stories running, all this background noise, and I just kept elevating my belief that, you know what, I can do it all. I can have it all. I can do it all. And I kept looking at how I could prep. I was watching my diet real carefully. I had kept my exercise routine for that week that we were even moving. And I will tell you, it was probably one of the most incredible experiences physically that I've ever experienced. Meaning I saw something around what was possible for me that I think I've never experienced before. I had moved for about 10 to 12 hours the day before on a Friday. Saturday, woke up about 4 o'clock to get up this hiking spot, and we hiked on sheer cliff for about 9 hours, meaning no trails, hiking poles, and you can see what I came back with. It was probably one of the most rewarding experiences. I'm a big rock hounder, and to go here was huge. This crystal that's on the left was actually just one of about 50 that I found. And it was just this incredible experience. And this place on this mountain was just magical, to say the least. But anyways, what I'm pointing to and what I experienced for myself is this idea, and I've heard other people say this, that when you think you're done, you're actually only 40% there. This concept that when you think your body or when you think your mind just can't handle it anymore, that you're really actually only 40% there. You've got 60% left. And I really experienced that. And so a little story within the story, or a little motivational piece inside of my motivational piece today is we really just don't know what we're capable of until we push ourselves, until we see ourselves in that experience. And now I know. It's like now I know myself differently than I ever have known myself. And it has the experience, it has me personally in the experience of like, oh my gosh, I can do so much more physically than I thought I could. My body, this machinery I'm in, can handle way more than I thought. So I want to talk to you guys about being all in. On Wednesday, I heard, we did this exercise on Wednesday, and I heard a bunch of people take on commitments. But when I was listening to how they were taking on their commitments, it just wasn't landing for me. And I was like, this is not going to work. Like what they're saying they're going to do, they're actually not going to do. I could almost predict it. I could almost see it. I'm not saying everyone, but I would say about 80% of the people that made that commitment on Wednesday, it's like without this training or without something new, these guys, they're not going to do this. They're not going to keep their commitment that they made last Wednesday. And to set you up in your listening, how many of you kind of get this? It's like, I know that I commit to things sometimes, and for whatever reason, I just don't see it through. I just don't get it done. Or how many of you, this one will be easier to identify, how many of you know someone else that they like keep telling you they're going to do this thing and they don't? They never get it done. Well, this training is for you. Because I found if you have something that you want others to keep your commitments, this is going to be an amazing training for you. If you're seeing that like you set goals and you set like life achievements or things you want to see differently in your life and you're like struggling with it, this training is going to be for you. So let's get started. I want to talk to you about the back door. And I want you to just like tune in on this. Like, have you ever had someone tell you they would do something, but the level of commitment was just not there? Like you could almost tell it wasn't going to happen. Similar to my experience this week. It was like they wanted to do it, but they also didn't want to let you down, or they didn't want to be wrong. So they created what I call a backdoor, an escape route, right? And backdoors are ways we do not fully commit, or ways we avoid committing at all. It's this thing that is still there. It's like, I still could escape. I could still get out of this. I wouldn't have to commit all the way. I wouldn't have to throw. Another example I've heard is like, you want to climb the wall, you want to get over the fence, you throw your hat over, right? You throw your bag over. And now it's like, well, my stuff's already over. I guess I got to go get it, right? You just commit. You don't leave a way for yourself to get out of this thing. And in life, we wouldn't be talking about this if growth wasn't something that we were interested in. And some of you might actually believe that you're not interested in growth, and that's fine. But everyone actually is interested in growth, naturally. It's not even a choice. It's a survive and thrive instinct. It's part of who we are as being human. And so avoiding growth is very unnatural, and it goes against who we are as humans, and comes with many negative repercussions or costs. It comes with an expense. If you're fighting your natural way of being to grow, and you can look through the eons of time, even in history, that's just what humans do, is we grow. And when we like put up walls to fight that, that's when you start having the negative repercussions. That's when you start seeing declines in health. That's when you start seeing things like cancer enter the body, and you start seeing a certain disease and things you become more susceptible to things like that. That's when those things start to occur. And it's actually natural for us to want to grow. It's natural for us to not have a backdoor, but for whatever reason we do it, and we'll get a little bit more into that. So like a child, children, and I like that Sean brought this up also, but children have the most pure form of a natural interposition. Like their interposition is so raw, it's so natural. For example, when a child learns how to speak, they spit out all kinds of variations of words, right? Like for any of you who've had children or been around them, they just throw it out there, and it's kind of humorous even, right? And after much failing and correcting, their grammar begins to improve. We expect kids to do this, don't we? And we have not made it socially wrong. Like, oh, shame on that kid who said that word the wrong way. It's like cute even, right? And there are typical time frames for development of children that we don't culturally shame them. You know, if they start doing that and they were like 12, it's like, oh, there's something off there. But like when they're young, as a society, we just don't do this with kids. But like an adult, when now beyond the fundamentals around growing up, we do not offer this courtesy to our adolescent or young adults, do we? Like that 12 or 13-year-old. It's very different, isn't it? How we approach their growth, specifically around the fundamentals of language. So as society, we use what I call a torture method. And I'm using this language intentionally because it is torture, to get the small people to do what the big people want. And it works by relating choices with right and wrong and isolating the child by temporarily threatening their survive and thrive instincts. We put them in timeout, for example, or detention, or we ground them from things, or we take something they like, something that they value away. Anyone guilty? It's like, yeah. Anyone had that happen to them as kids? Absolutely. But like culturally, this is how we've been raised to handle this. I call it the torture method. And now for most of us, this is how we experienced life. I'm not saying it is right or that there's not an upgrade version to this. However, we evolved from fearless, foolish, humble creatures, children, to fearful, unauthentic, know-it-all adults. And we created, and what this creates is hell on earth. And many of us are still living there. Many of us still haven't, we were children, and then we went into this cycle, and then we haven't actually found or gotten access that we get to undo it. You get to undo it and be like a child again. And now what is wanted for us is to undo this and unlearn this behavior, to become like a child and experience heaven again. So I want to talk about this word humble. It's a fun word. It's a word that I've been playing with quite a bit, and I've found that redefining it or using the definition this way is actually really helpful. So humble is a curious word, and it is defined as having or showing a modest or low estimate of one's own importance. Having or showing a modest or low estimate of one's importance. Being humble does not mean without confidence. It doesn't mean that you would do that without confidence. It doesn't mean you wouldn't go out and be confident about it. There's this weird thing that like people who are humble are not confident in themselves or are not bold or don't have certain types of personalities. And it has nothing to do with that. It has nothing to do with personality. A child learning to speak learns with confidence and is humble because they have no issue showing up as the fool, modest or low estimate. You see that? Like humble means you're not afraid of being a fool. Being humble has nothing to do with sharing what you accomplished. Has nothing to do with that, or even celebrating your victories. Humble is about being modest or of low estimate of your own importance, meaning you don't care if you show up as a fool. You don't care if you fail. Humility is a powerful inner position and is not an identity. It's not like, well, Joe, this guy I know, is just such a humble guy. It's like, well, kind of. He's not humble all the time. It's an inner position. You're either humble or not, moment to moment to moment to moment. You see that? No person is humble. It's their inner position is either humble or time from time to time. Like it's like from here to there. It's like, oh yeah, they showed up humble there. They showed up humble here. Performers are humble, by the way. And I think there's this fascinating thing that like people striving to be humble look at performers and go, well, they're not humble. That person, that athlete, that musician, that business owner, that millionaire, they're not humble. And it's like, bull. They probably have an inner position that's humble more often than those who are not performing. And how can you know? It's because they get results. And results don't come from being worried about what people think or being worried that you might show up as the fool. They get results, they are fearless, and they don't care if they look like a fool. They always know there is a better way, and they have no issue around how they look to figure it out. They put themselves out there, exposed, vulnerable to miss the mark. They know it's possible, and they just don't care. What they're interested in is the result. Are you starting to see it?